So I'm currently an intern at Capgemini, and I'm doing an assignment about sovereignty and the NIS2 law in Europe. And I'm actually going around all the companies, the EU ones and the hyperscalers, to ask about what sovereignty means for them.
Right.
And I've gathered a lot of information.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to answer your questions. Normally, I say, like, do people actually know the meaning of the word sovereignty? So sovereignty is like complete freedom, complete independence, complete control, right, of something. And when it comes to compute, is exactly that. You just span it across to your data, to your cloud services, everything you're running. The end user should be completely in control of whatever they're using the cloud services for. So for me, when I say we're a sovereign cloud, this is what we mean. So the end user is in complete control of their data, their compute, and they need to know where it is at what time, and it should not leave a boundary where they define their sovereignty, right? Because when it's sovereignty, it's usually a boundary because, we're all living in countries and regions. So sovereignty within Europe means data should not cross those boundaries, right? And in some cases in the Middle East, sovereignty is within cities. So we got CTEC compliances in the Middle East, right? Okay. So they're even more strict, like say Dubai or Middle East in Riyadh. So you have only data within that city. It should not leave. So how do you make it accessible? How do you give it, give it more thought about how do you give control to the people who own the data rather than the companies who are actually massaging your data, right?
Yeah, so the part about that you have control of your data and where it is, all the EU cloud providers, they kind of say the same here and there. So they have multiple locations worldwide. Your data only goes so far.
Yeah.
And when I talk to the hyperscalers and I tell them, hey, these EU companies, they tell me, you provide sovereign cloud, but you're an American company, so America can at any time access the information that you have. But they say, no, that's not true at all. But the EU providers say, no way, it's the American company. If they ask for it, they need to give it.
That's
so
right.
What is your take on that?
I think this is something people are not conscious about, and I think people need to wake up, open their eyes. Okay, when you think about yourself right now, right? You have gadgets on you right now. I'm guessing 9 out of 10 times it's either an Android or an iPhone that you're using, 50-50, right? Yep. You are having an Apple iWatch or, a technology that is mainly owned by an American firm, Apple, right? Then you have OpenAI. People are using ChatGPT on a regular basis. Then you have the hyperscalers. Google, AWS, Oracle, IBM, all these hyperscalers who have headquarters in America. According to the Cloud Act in 2018, it's clear that the US government has access to anybody's data, irrespective of where it is, right? So if it's data, private data in Google Cloud or AWS in the UK, the US government can access it. I mean, there are lots of reasons they can use to do that. So when you talk about GDPR being in Europe, it's a gray area, right? So I think lots of neoclouds and small cloud providers in the UK are trying to make that awareness, right? You have Civo, one of the major cloud providers in the UK, based in London. There, if you go on the website, it clearly says sovereign cloud, and they're making sure that any customer who has data on their platform never leaves that environment, and even they themselves would not have access to it. They would not want to care about it, right? When we talk about our enterprise customers, we are going one step further. Lots of our customers have data on-premise, and that's where they have had the sovereign control on, the compliances on. Say if you're a National Health Service in the UK, or you're a big bank in Germany, then your data is already in on-premise on servers behind firewalls. Now, the classic model is that if you want to analyze that data, you have to move everything to the cloud, right? And that breaks a lot of issues, lots of compliances. And that simple process of moving data, no matter how big it is, just because of compliances, can take months to program and to manage because of compliances are not done. Like you have to redo security compliances, this and that, right? And you have to rely on the cloud provider that data is not going to be used for anything else, right? Yeah. So What we do in our company is that we're trying to redefine that. How do we bring compute to your data? One of our customers has data on-premise where it's always been for the last 20 years. We're saying, how can we bring compute to you so your data stays where it is, right? So we're creating virtual racks for them with GPUs where data only in runtime goes to the GPU, and that's never stored anywhere. It's volatile. Once the program is done, it just deletes itself. But the main source and the point of truth stays where it is, right? Okay. So this is how we're kind of tackling or addressing the sovereignty in a very much more granularity.
Okay. And when it comes to what the hyperscalers provide when you get a cloud service from them, apart from the fact that your data stays where it is and you know where it is, how can you compete against a company like that owns a lot as well? Like, let's say more than 90% of the networks in the Netherlands, for example, or the data centers.
I mean, if they're hyperscalers, are they hyperscalers or are they smaller independent cloud providers?
Let's say we take Google, for example, and what they have.
If they
want to compete against that.
Right. So there are a few services that every cloud provider offers. One is usually managed services, where you start using their AI services by having data within their cloud premises, right? One way of doing that, which is much more easy for them and also the end user to sign up on because of the SLAs and the high availability. These are all the things, and the backups they give you. These are all the things they help you lure in, right? Because we both know, and at the end of the day, all the companies are now competing for data, right? If you see what OpenAI is doing, right? All the products every time have always been about accessing data and learning from it, right? So more and more models are coming out from these companies, proprietary models based on consumer data, right? And that is gold for them. Okay, what is the human behavior? How do you predict what a human is going to do based on different circumstances? These are the models people are trying to create. These are not open source models. These are only big companies who are able to do that because they have the data. Whose data? Our data, right? So there is, if you go to Google and say in Netherlands, if you're storing your data, there are two ways of doing it. If you use their services that they provide, then they most probably have access to that. However, you can also create your own silos and your own little environments, which you encrypt and you manage end to end. In that way, they will not have access to the data. So there are lots of ways to do it. It's about how the architecture of your enterprise is utilizing the the end services. So this is where we, I think, try to create awareness that even with big hyperscalers, you can do things more cleverly, where you can like manage data at scale, where you are still in control and not them.
And for my assignment, I have the government as a sector I'm doing research on, and I'm grabbing the 5 biggest local governments of the Netherlands. Most of them, I think like more than 90% are still using the Microsoft services. Why would it be a good choice for them to switch like a cloud provider from your company, for example?
We don't want people to just switch because, somebody's saying data sovereignty, this is our main goal. No, It's about making sure that our customers are never vendor locked in, right? Even if they move from our platform, they should be able to do that easily, right? At the end of the day, the end customer needs to have that choice and ability to move and change their architecture whenever they want, right? So on our platform, we partner with lots of major cloud providers, like 15 of the cloud providers right now. And we spin up compute in a very enclaved environment where we store either data or we manage compute just for AI use, right? And that is only something we have control of and the customer has control of. The cloud providers would never have control of it, but we don't have access to anything what happens within it. Only the customer does, right? So I'm telling you that moving all the data to the cloud, because if somebody's already chosen Azure, 9 out of 10 chances are they're already moving everything to the cloud, right? Including the data. But there are options where can you keep the data within your on-premise infrastructure and only use the compute for analytics on the cloud? Because database is very cheap to manage locally, But AI compute GPUs are very difficult to get on the cloud, right? This is where our platform comes and tries to solve that. If the government wants to keep their data on servers behind firewalls, they can continue doing that without having to move everything on a single cloud provider. Because when the time comes, with a switch of a button, the hyperscalers can stop all services to, if they're American based and if needed, to the entire Europe, right? Your Visa, Mastercard will stop working. Your banks will go down. People won't be able to take out cash from the card machines, right? Just thinking about just those simple things, you can see how critical it becomes to realize that.
So I told the person from Google about that situation. He told me that yes, it is a case, but he also asked me, but when would it actually happen?
It already happened.
It did?
Yes. So if you think about Russia, and Ukraine. It's been many years now when the war started. That's exactly what happened. Russia, there were MasterCard and Visa stopped working there. So they had to come up with their own solution. If you look at what's going on right now, Iran does not have access to internet because the satellites are not working for them. You see, so there's a lot of reliance that we don't realize because we are not from there right now. But if you actually speak from people that are going through this right now, this is the power, the big organizations, the big corporates, and the big countries have against others, right? So this is something, either you wait for it or you start planning now, right?
So that's why you would never believe that one of the big companies can provide a sovereign cloud, just because when you take enough steps back, it will still end up with your data maybe or maybe not being in America.
Yeah, I think lots of AWS has just released something for Middle East where they say like a sovereign cloud for the Middle East, right? But there is a lot of I can't say that they won't. I think they have to, because otherwise some countries are so strict now, like the Middle East, that they would not buy any services, right? So I think same thing goes for China. For example, Russia I already mentioned. If you go to China, they're not using Gmail, right? So sometimes the organizations we speak to in Germany who say we don't want to use Gmail because of the reasons, right? So even Gmail, think about that. Everybody has a Gmail account, right? Or a Hotmail account, because they're the first two that started. Can some people go to that extreme levels where they don't even want their Gmails to be, with the hyperscaler? So some like countries like China, for example, they build everything in-house. Right, so they have full control of it. Huawei is here; you can speak to them about it too.
Yeah. So that's also for my follow-up question very important, because one of the risks when you switch to something else like this is that the local government and the employees have to get used to a new environment, and when you get used to something new, there's mistakes going to be made. Are there any other risks besides that part that may be happening when something like a local government makes such a big switch from one big cloud to another?
I mean, it's like hedging. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket situation right now. We are here at KubeCon, and KubeCon is all about tooling, right? And it's a very technical conference, and everybody here is like trying to showcase a solution for the engineers to make the DevOps, the CI/CD, the scaling, the tooling easier. On our platform, we saw something else. Our platform is based on Kubernetes, but our end users have no access, or the engineering work required to switch or to get access to compute is minimal, because we believe that the power of building from the data that you have relies on the people who are actually AI experts in the field, right? So when it comes to government also, yes, they have the data. What are they doing with it is the main important question, right? 9 out of 10 times they have a lot of data, yes. You can put a lot of compliances around it, but are you using that data for anything? If they're using that data for the good of your country in whatever way, then your architecture should be very simple. Okay. And to analyze that data should be as easy as ABC, right? So what we see in the future is that the power should be in the hands of the people who are making a change. right? And the people who are analyzing data at scale, rather than the DevOps and the IT teams, because the IT teams don't have the power. They're just doing some tooling,
Okay.
right? So how do we simplify that? Where you don't need massive engineering people or teams to do a migration, right? It should be like simple and easy to manage end to end, right?
And would your company support the use of, let's say, a hybrid model of a Google Cloud and your cloud, for
Absolutely.
example?
The fact that we partner with so many cloud providers, we have a hybrid and a multi-cloud integration out of the box, right? So our if your data is somewhere in AWS, you can then use compute from GCP, or you can use compute from Scaleway, UpCloud, Nebius, right, which are like the European cloud providers. You can do that very easily.
Okay.
So sometimes compute can be available on the hyperscalers easily, or vice versa. But your data you could host your data on a European cloud provider, but then you could utilize the state-of-the-art compute from another cloud provider, which you should be easy to get through our platform. So
Okay.
we definitely have hybrid and multi-cloud features out of the box.
So you obviously prefer when someone has a fully European cloud, but a hybrid cloud with a sovereign cloud from an American company is also as possible.
Yeah, I would not say my preference would be that.
Oh, okay.
My preference would be more, if you choose everything on a hyperscaler, it'll be extremely expensive. It'll be easy to manage because they have a lot of tooling around that. Do you have a lot of control to move? No. Egress costs will be high to move data out. Do you know about egress costs?
I think I've heard about it.
So when you move your data in the cloud providers, the big cloud providers, they will not charge you anything.
Oh,
they
that
will
way,
actually pay you for it sometimes. But when you have to move your data out, you have to pay a lot. So you get stuck there. That's another reason. However, European Union is bringing a legislation 2027 which abolishes this. So I think you should kind of read about that, because that's going to open a lot of doors for people to move away from the hyperscalers.
Oh, okay.
Right? So in 2027, hopefully, egress costs from Europe will be stopped by AWS, Google, and Azure, the big cloud providers. And then the rest of the world will follow. Usually European Union starts things and then the rest of the world follows. So what that will give you access to lots of people who are already locked in, because they know they have to pay hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars to move the data back out to some other cloud providers. That will go away.
Okay.
So there'll be more opportunities, coming soon.
So better to make a plan already for what you're going to do in the future.
Correct.
All right.